Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time zone it is, whether you're in the world, it is your Lord and Saviour with a very loud snoring dog to my right. But more importantly, we have a video game reaction that we're going to go through today. The last bunch of these we went through were the various controversial trailers for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, which are going to appear in a playlist up there that will take you off to a much weirder time where I had more hair and less facial hair. But this game here, Werewolf the Apocalypse, yes, we have a Werewolf the Apocalypse video game coming now. Werewolf the Apocalypse Purgatory is a spiritual successor, shall I say, or perhaps a sequel to their smash hit, Werewolf the Apocalypse Heart of the Forest, they being Different Tales. And if you can't tell by my energy, I am extraordinarily excited to see them working on another World of Darkness game, specifically within the realms of Werewolf the Apocalypse. Through that game, that was like my proper introduction to Werewolf the Apocalypse, and I have fallen in love with the setting since. I spoke very fondly of that game at the time, and I still do find it a really enjoyable experience. You can go and check out my review on that up there in a card. And before we get carried away with it, why don't we just check out the trailer and see what we can make of this, and then we can go to the Steam page and work it out together. So already, we're getting a very different vibe to Heart of the Forest. Yeah, it's Werewolf the Apocalypse is big, it's scary, but the music is it's going to be a lot more personal, it's going to be a lot more horrific and frightening. And you may have noticed, actually, with some of the markers that have changed. I'll just play it back from the beginning again. If we have a look at the top of the screen here, providing all that font at the top goes away, we'll notice that we've got a similar sort of screen, displays as Heart of the Forest. We've got the Rage, the Willpower, Health, but we have a new one, Harano. And if anybody has no idea what that is, Harano is a feature that's been across all editions of Werewolf the Apocalypse. To describe it badly for you, in case anybody who's stumbling across Werewolf the Apocalypse the first time with this, Harano is like a supernatural werewolf depression. Like, werewolves are like warriors of Gaia, the Mother Earth, fighting back against the forces of the Wyrm, entropy incarnate. And you may have gathered from the very state of affairs that we're not going to get any better, it's just going to go downhill. And that is the World of Darkness, that's sort of intensified tenfold. And it's quite possible for a champion of Gaia, a werewolf, the Garou, to feel this tenfold. Like, they have this sacred duty for their mother and they cannot uphold it, and that's what Harano is in the setting. Now, in 5th edition, this is added some very interesting mechanics to that, where it reaches up to a bar of 5, and it gets to 5, then your character is no longer playable, that you just cannot get out of this downward spiral, which is a very, very interesting comment the developers of the most recent TTRPG iteration, the 5th edition of Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition, have made regarding mental health. And the way that Harano is accumulated through that game is through the harming of one's touchstones, your mortal and wolf friends, lovers, etc. and so forth that are like close to you. In Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition, where the idea comes from, it has a slightly different idea where it keeps you bound to your humanity, and it works a little bit similar with Werewolf, but that's a conversation for another time. So already this is going to be a lot more personal and a lot more horrific. There's going to be a lot more personal stakes on the line. We have a different character, Samira Rahan, or however the name's pronounced. I'm going to butcher these names throughout, but I just wanted to address that, and this is getting me extraordinarily excited. It's also going to imply here that it's going to be more mature rather than your stereotypical saving the planet and stopping deforestation ideas. But let's carry on with the trailer. And this is our protagonist here, Sarama, or Sarima. I've already forgotten the name. Apologies. Sarama, there we go. Sarama is clearly some form of refugee, so again, it's a lot more modern in that respect. The Bywizia Forest returns. We have some stats you've just noticed here. If we just take it back a little bit, we have these physical stats, so it's actually more elements of the TTRPG working its way into the video game here. Choose one of the physical skill. Using a skill can be risky but rewarding: athletics, stealth, or survival, which are your skills beneath that's paired with an attribute, an aptitude, and it's just about to describe what they are. So it's all looking very similar to Heart of the Forest, but they're just adding a couple things here just to make it a bit more engaging, just to evolve the setting a bit more. And to be totally honest, I wouldn't be too fussed if they didn't do something like this. And it was very similar to the first iteration, but I'm glad the Different Tales are taking these like little steps forward to make it more like the TTRPG in question. Again, lovely, beautiful eerie artwork. The buildings are toppled over one side here. It's all very creepy and eerie. You've got your different werewolf forms here you can turn into at dramatically appropriate moments. And it also implies here that Sarama, as we enter the game, it's already aware that she or they is a werewolf, which is much different to what Heart of the Forest does, where you go through most of the game where you, the player, obviously know that she's going to be a werewolf when you're trying to work out the bits and pieces as she does, which is a wonderful way of telling the story. But here, there's going to be a bit more of an expectation here that you are already aware of it. I'm sure they're going to describe all the things in-game, but it's a very interesting narrative. As I said, it's more mature. It's not so much a story of self-discovery. It's clearly a game of family and protection, loyalty, and oh, I love it. Love this artwork. Join Samara's fight for freedom. Experience the demo now. Oddly enough, the demo's not out yet as of the recording of this, so unless there's something I've missed here. But yeah, that's the trailer for Purgatory, Way of the Apocalypse, Purgatory. I'm just in awe with this artwork, that little bits at the end, fighting against creatures of the Wyrm. Like, what the fuck is that? Ally? Foe? Like... Oh, I have really strong high hopes for this. I mean, I hope that it's going to be alright. If anybody's going to tell a really fantastic story here within the World of Darkness, it's going to be Different Tales. But there's more information that we can find, which requires us to swiftly move over to the Steam page for the game. So we can see already from the Steam page that it's going to be out on the third quarter of 2024, so that's sort of the autumn period, like late summer, autumn period. That is if I've got that correct. But in any case, it's actually not that far away, as we're like already halfway through the year as it is. And at the top of the page, you have like a developer vlog thing, which is like a re-loop of them just like playing the game, and like a bit like a walkthrough play sort of thing, which I'm not going to look at, because I will be here forever just like stopping it all the way through. So let's just have a look at some of this artwork, and you've got the trailer, which I've paused and on repeat. So we've got some of the artwork here, and my face is going to be covering up bits of it here, so there's not really much I can do here, unfortunately. I can actually make myself a little smaller, just so we can see what's going on here. There we go. Lovely, jubbly stuff. So we've got this bit of artwork here of Samira Rahmani, a Garou of Afghanistan, sworn to fight alongside my fellow werewolves to protect Guy and inhabitants of the Wyrm. Rage drove every step as I tore my enemies to pieces and over again, but the humans have taken too much, and anger, battle, despair as I wander. Are they even worth fighting for? Already a lot more mature, a lot more aware of the existence of Gaia and all that stuff, and also kind of some hard-hitting questions like, is this actually all worth fighting for? Which is like, it's probably going to play more into the Hirano aspect, how her relationships with individuals are going to, fluctuate that. I would be curious to see if that's something that can decrease over time rather than, it's a static thing that goes up, and what you'll need to do to affect that, because I imagine that there's going to be quite a lot of death here, outside of the realms of Werewolf, of course, but, there's going to be a lot of emotional fuckery, which I'm totally all for. You've got the green text that tells you about what to do, and you highlight these different words here, and I imagine that it comes up with a description very similar to what Heart of the Forest did. And this, to me, this looks like a very early bit of the game. Again, just beautiful artwork, this sort of like photorealistic sort of collage sort of thing. I get Michael Gaydos vibes with this, who does a lot of did a lot of World of Darkness artwork. It's a very striking way to capture these different emotions here. You've got the different forms from earlier on, telling you what they all mean here. This seems to be on the same day, November 18th morning, still in the morning, so I imagine these two are quite, happen very quickly, as it were. Yeah, this all seems to be on the first day. Got some fucking Horseman Apocalypse thing. You've got this character sheet that is, again, very similar to what Heart of the Forest did. Tells you a bit about Raid, what Harano means. I'm Ramani, a Garou of Afghanistan. Let's destroy this worm one battle at a time. So it's interesting that this is going to, depending on what this meter's like, basically the more depressed that you are, you're going to be less willing to go into action and more defeatist, I guess, which makes you question how that's going to conflict with willpower, because willpower was a little bit like this, but not quite. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all plays out, and I'm also be very intrigued to see which Garou tribe that Sarama belongs to, if it's going to go like that, or whether you as the player have a bit more of an opening prologue prelude sort of thing where you can choose that. If that's explained in the developer thing, then great, but as I said, we're not going to be looking at that today. Oh, and there's a mind and body condition healthy, which I imagine is reflected depending on the health and Harano. Although 2 health out of 5 doesn't seem all that healthy to me, but hey, what do I know? And the skills that have been added here as well, physical skills, stealth, intimidation, medicine, you probably have to answer like some sort of Q&A at the beginning, like to develop your own iteration of Sarama here. So again, just very interesting to see how that's all going to play out and how customizable she's going to be as you like play through her story. I mean, what the fuck is this? And I mean that in like a good sense rather than it's bad. Like the artwork here is just so striking, and we've moved to February here, so it's going through a lot more than what Heart of the Forest did. I think it was like a week or so that you played through that game, but no, this is going over the period of months as you fight this hideous creature, or whether it's just like a weird dream sequence sort of thing. Again, the same February in a church, meeting with different people and, discussing and whatnot. Again, I don't know what any of this means yet because I haven't played the game and we don't have the demo yet, so, I'm just taking things as they are. Back to that November 18th bit, telling you how health and willpower works, showing off some of the artwork that, depending on what your willpower and health is like, you'll be able to react in different ways and take so much of a beating. It'd be interesting to know, actually, that is it possible to die in the opening section? That'd be a very interesting thing that you could get here. Choose your rage. Rage can enable you to fight against the evil that consumes the world, but rage can also overwhelm, threatening to destroy the humanity within. So I'm assuming you have a bit more of a customization here with the tribes here as well. In Werewolf the Apocalypse, you have what's known as auspices, which are different phases of the moon in which your character is experiences their first change. In older editions is the one that you were born under. Also, 5th edition doesn't make up its mind which one it is either, so pick your poison. So yeah, rather than the 5 that you have here, it just has low, medium and high, and I imagine these are going to fluctuate throughout the game. However, depending on which one you start with, I imagine that's going to dictate certain interactions. Like a high rage Sarama is going to be more focused on intimidation and combat, whereas a low one may be more spiritual, and medium might have a bit more sensibility, like the Philodox auspice, the halfway point with the moon, the half moon, like judge, jury, and occasionally executioner sort of thing. And I'm just skim reading the bits on the left-hand side. When judging from the first screenshot, you were how you fight with Picasso, Sarama, Rahimi, it's time to choose what is your story. And I imagine this is the next thing that comes up. So I'm going to guess that the game starts on the morning of November the 18th, and I'm guessing that's a new moon. No, it's a full moon, beg your pardon. I like this screenshot a bit more. I was looking through this yesterday. Near the entrance, I got a group of drunken middle-aged men. At first I thought they were Garou, but as I saw they were humans, no doubt returning from a football match and stopping to urinate in the alleyway. Catching the sight of me, they began to wolf whistle, the irony of which was not lost on me. So there's more of those humane elements that I'm sure that many femme-presenting individuals can relate to, unfortunately. So it's a lot more grounded. It's because the thing with Heart of the Forest, yes, it started off quite, you know, mundane, but then when the werewolf elements kicked in, everything just all like opened up, and it's like the two worlds felt detached but at the same time connected. Yes, you were going to try and destroy and stop the deforestation from happening, but there was now more this ruling supernatural element here, whereas here it is reminding you that the werewolves of the Garou are not so isolated as they want to be. They have to enter the towns, they have to enter the cities and interact with all the shit that's thrown in them, or in this case, pissing drunken men. And I know there's going to be some people who won't like this. Oh, they've made it work. Oh, they've made it political. Fuck off. Werewolf the Apocalypse is like probably one of the more political games and more woke, as it were. I can't believe that in the year of our Lord 2024, I feel I have to make a point saying that, but whatever. And then you've got this pub, which I'm not even going to attempt to answer that. Mixing drinks and serving rowdy Garou. I could bring Pat and Alexander their drinks or take a short break with Victoria amidst the loud music and boozy chaos. In Heart of the Forest, you could interact with certain characters at different points as well, and I imagine this is something that's very similar here. If memory serves me correct, Pat is a character from Heart of the Forest. Because as we'll soon find out, there are going to be characters from that game appearing in this one. It's been a while since I've played it, and I would like to revisit it again sometime. Maybe a sort of retrospective sort of thing. If you like that, leave a comment in the description below. But yeah, let's carry on with the next screenshot, the penultimate one. Again, a conversation. It's highlighting what I mentioned earlier on. You've got some of these orange words here. You move your cursor over, it comes up with a box telling you what they were. Again, human sort of grounded sort of thing. Werewolf the Apocalypse, as does a lot of 5th edition stuff, Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition I should say, has a more focus on the more human elements of the supernatural creatures, which arguably all iterations of World of Darkness did, but 5th edition has a human stance on things. It doesn't quite work well with a TTRPG in my opinion, but it's nice to see that we have these more human, chilled, you know, relaxed sort of scenarios rather than just fighting back all the time, which, again, Heart of the Forest, like, when it got into the werewolf bit, it was just very focused on, like, doing this thing straight away, which is a great way of, like, getting you comfortable with the idea of Heart of the Werewolf the Apocalypse, or a newbie like myself, but this, it expands it a lot more, and it just presents werewolves in a different light, and also gets rid of the misnomer that their raid is just them being pissed off all the time. It's a supernatural, primordial fear that is being blessed and cursed from Luna, the sister of Gaia. Luna, of course, being the moon, but I'm not going to lore dump too much here. And the final screenshot, it takes us back here, and I'm going to hazard a guess that that also plays in to your different auspices, you know, the chart that we saw earlier on, the low, medium, high sort of thing. Who knows, but in any case, it's frightening to think about that, you know, the conditions of the world and how we treat different people. You know, what's going on at Gars at the moment. I mean, let's have a look at all of that now, shall we? So beneath all of that, we have the About This Game bit, as you find in all Steam fiends. Battle monsters, investigate insidious conspiracies, and explore the dark side of, inhuman nature in Werewolf the Apocalypse Purgatory. A unique blend of dark fantasy thriller, visual novel, and tabletop RPG set in the World of Darkness universe. Unleash the beast. Investigate murder, monsters, and madness amidst Poland's border crisis. As I said, there's a more personal story here. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit choked up and emotional. Again, as I started to say a moment ago, just what's happening in the world. I don't know how Poland is dealing with this. Obviously, there's a crisis of sorts, and I know where I am in the UK, our government's being particularly cruel to all sorts of refugees, unless you're Ukrainian, of course. But yes, I'm just going to just carry on reading before I break down. Investigate murder, monsters, and madness amidst Poland's border crisis. Play as Samara, a refugee werewolf, as her search unearths dark secrets and forces her to confront her own tragedies. You know, again, the blending of the personal and the grander supernatural things. Shape your destiny. Dive into 2 investigative paths in the World of Darkness. Help Samara solve a chilling supernatural murder or uncover the secrets of a formidable werewolf pack. Or, as the key words there. So I'm assuming there's going to be essentially 2 games in one, so that might just loop round sort of thing. Each decision impacts a story, revealing new secrets and leading to different endings. Caught in the Purgatory, a fantasy and reality where your choices end in light or darkness. Yeah, that's a pretty good way of summing everything up that we've seen so far. It's like she's just sort of stuck in the middle of it all, as I feel all Homid, Garou are. Homid being the in-game term for, first of all, werewolves in the human form, but in old editions of Werewolf, those who were born as a human, lived through their teen years, their kids and teen years as a werewolf, experienced their first change, and now thrust into the world of darkness, so to speak. Those Homid Garou may often want to try and balance their human and supernatural lives and find that the human one just suffers the most because of that rage I spoke about earlier on. And I am assuming with Samara's very personal and terrifying experiences, assuming that the 18th of November bit with her like trying to get into Poland is the start of the game. It's quite a lot to deal with all at once. Tabletop RPG mechanics. Navigate through the game using RPG mechanics by balancing health, willpower, rage, skills, Harano, and inventory strategically, making every decision critical to your survival and progression. Now, we haven't seen much of the inventory management. In fact, we haven't seen any of it. So it's interesting to see how different items are going to work in a place. Like, you're not going to have like stim packs that like heal you up or something like that, but I imagine there's gonna there might be like medicines that you can like help people out with, drinks or whatever, or like survival related things, like surviving in the wild sort of things. But I'm curious to see what they mean by that, because it's not going to be like, I don't think it's going to be like a survival horror thing. You know, it's interesting. That's just another element that they're just wanting to tease at a later point. Legendary World of Darkness lore. Werewolf the Apocalypse Purgatory adapts the new 5th edition core book mechanics of the legendary tabletop RPG from the World of Darkness universe. Experience a classic role-playing session combined with the exciting new features of Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition. I feel a bit iffy with this because I am not particularly fond of a lot of the directions with Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition, in that Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition, as it stands now, it was meant to be a reset on the world, that the apocalypse is happening now, the Garou have failed, the Umbra is non-traversable. I'm not going to give it like a full rundown and everything now. I've got a review coming out later this year where that's going to go into much more detail about that. But if I'm being totally honest, the people at Different Tales are doing most of the heavy lifting with the lore and the material here. And they're also in a very interesting position, because their previous game was being developed where the intention of Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition was going to be a continuation. So from revised and 20th anniversary edition transitioning over to 5th edition, and there was, you know, there's going to be a bridging gap, and you feel that with that game there, Heart of the Forest, was how, you know, it's going to reveal how they're going about doing that. But with 5th edition now, the development went over to a different studio. It went from Hunters Entertainment to Renegade Game Studios. There's a whole controversy surrounding all that, and I'm not going to touch upon all that. I'm just going to leave several links in the description below for you to read at your own leisure. But the result of that was releasing, I believe, and this is totally my opinion, that a Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition plays lip service to the material at best. So to say that there's going to be, you know, lore and whatnot here, it's just the main basic things, because to my opinion the core book just has the bare basic themes. So my point is that with the interesting place bit, like, are they going to carry on in like their pseudo revised / 5th edition storyline, or are they going to retcon some in their decisions and focus solely on the 5th edition stuff? For example, you had a Black Fury Werewolf tribe member. The Black Furies, you will know them as stereotypically as like the all-woman, femme-presenting, like feminist tribe that just hated men. It's a part of that, but they're more focused on like protecting those that can't protect themselves, so women and children from men and other forms of, to use lack of a better phrase, bully. And 5th edition sort of like did away with all of that and just had it focus on like radicalizer warriors that don't take any shit from anybody. But then again, that's every fucking Garou tribe in Werewolf the Apocalypse. So are they going to, for example, if they introduce the Black Furies, is that going to be something they are going to retcon or carry on with their own iteration of the World of Darkness? And finally, before you have like a mature content description, which you can probably guess what that will entail, Enjoyable for novices and veterans alike. Werewolf of the Apocalypse Purgatory can be enjoyed by both World of Darkness veterans and newcomers looking for an accessible entry into this rich, acclaimed universe. While the game includes beloved characters and places from Werewolf of the Apocalypse Heart of the Forest, if we saw the Poland forest and it's set in Poland, which makes sense as the developers are set there, you do not need to be familiar with either Heart of the Forest or the World of Darkness universe to enjoy Purgatory gameplay. New vocabulary is linked with pop-ups providing pronunciation tips, definitions, and background lore, as we saw earlier on. Accessibility, you can choose accessible fonts and adjust text time and paragraph delay, which is good, because that wasn't something that was in Heart of the Forest, and then people, provided feedback, and they were very quick to provide all of that. So, Different Tales do listen, and I'm very certain that they're going to provide a very good and authentic Werewolf of the Apocalypse 5th edition experience. Now, I do have a couple concerns, and they're very minor ones. The first one I've already touched upon, which is sort of like the pseudo-narrative bit, like where are they going to sit with the lore of all this? Are they going to carry on with what they've done? Or because of where 5th edition isn't now, are they just going to retcon and do away with all of that? We can see that Harano being more of a staple here, as it is with 5th edition. It's actually one of the game's fail states, as I mentioned earlier on, that it's been introduced here. I'm very glad that Horsglog, or however that one's pronounced, is not a feature here, which does connect me to my second issue. Heart of the Forest had one major criticism for its gameplay and its narrative, which was the focus on the Get of Fenris, one of the tribes, being an all-Nazi fascist tribe, which is a little exhausting because there is a bit in the World of Apocalypse lore where a specific camp or a faction, you could call it, of the Fenrir, another name for the Get of Fenris, that fought that the way to fight back the Wyrm and the forces of the Weaver, which is, whereas the Wyrm is entropy, the Weaver is control and technology and those sorts of things. They thought that the way to do that was to align themselves with the Nazis, which is certainly a choice, which you could also comment about, certain people who claim they are Vikings, Nordic, and fight for Odin and whatnot, are actually just a bunch of right-wing fascist twats. And the Get of Fenris in the lore and the setting rejected this faction within them and just wiped them off the face of the planet. It took many years for them to do so. But this faction was never presented as a way to, oh, this is a faction you can join and experience in your games, because that's a really cool idea. No, it was presented as one of the many themes of Werewolf, that you rise up against it and squash down all those horrible, corruption forces. And a theme with Werewolf of the Apocalypse is do with, fighting back the elders who have, fucked you over, and just all those horrible annihilation of fascist themes that are within Werewolf of the Apocalypse. You weren't supposed to, follow with it, you're supposed to rise up against it. And the Get of Fenris were a lot more than them just being the Nazi tribe, because they were never the Nazi tribe. It was a very specific faction. And I have a worry that if they introduce the Fenrir here, that they're going to follow down this path again, just like every single bit of Werewolf of the Apocalypse 5th edition media has done. You have the more recent interactive novel Book of Hungry Names that has Fenrir as literal Nazis with swastikas and all those other symbols on their arms. You've had a couple of module stories that have been released, adventures that people can run where the Fenris have been the antagonists, and one of them has puts chips inside people to convert them into their way of thinking, which definitely doesn't tie in with the stereotypical Nazi experiment idea. I hope they don't do this, because first of all, I think they're better than that. They can create a more interesting antagonist that's not like that. It'd be very interesting to see if they bring in the Black Spiral Dancers. That would be very interesting, especially with all that cool fucking artwork that they do, rather than just leaning into the low-hanging fruit of Werewolf of the Apocalypse 5th edition idea that the Get now cult of Fenris are just the fascist tribe of fascists. It would be nice for them to do something a bit more interesting with that. But really, those are my only two complaints. And the fact that it's only those two small things, which are very 5th edition specific, and, well, not including the last one, but the first one is so very biased to me that it might not even be an issue at all. It just goes to show that how confident I am that they're going to deliver a good job, because as I said, if anybody's going to deliver an authentic World of Darkness video game experience, that will progress the story in a very interesting way, it's going to be those people here. And I can't wait to see more about this and like learn more about this game. I've already added it to my wish list. Have you? Do let me know in the comments below if you're planning on playing this game, whether you've played Heart of the Forest, and also if you're interested in seeing me do like a let's play that I did, like I did for Heart of the Forest, which is up there now. Do let me know in the comments below, and I'll do like a let's read thing where each episode will be like a different chapter. Yeah, let me know how much you're looking forward to this or not looking forward to this. What are your concerns and worries about it? And please don't just say that 5th edition's sit and then just leave it at that. Let's actually have a conversation and try and dissect opinions and thought processes, because I'd love to hear the different opinions, and just because it's, you know, it's healthy to have these different discussions and be, at the very least, aware of these different mindsets and expand our horizons a bit more. Just don't be a dick, and don't come in saying there's a, oh, it's gone woke and crap like that, because I'm just going to delete your comments. And until next time, farewell.